The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Office 365 webinar series. I'm Keith Singleton. I'm with Affiliated Resource Group. I'll be your host today. I'd like to start by introducing myself a little bit. I'm new to Affiliated, and I appreciate your attendance on this webinar for Office 365. The objectives of this webinar will be to introduce you to Office 365 and what the cloud service can do for you as a business, as a small business, and as a managed service. So let me start with a little bit about Affiliated. Affiliated was started in 1993. And it was designed to assist you with your IT needs and to fill the gaps to the day-to-day help desk support and IT projects, assessments, and consulting for our managed services group, which I'm a part of. My title with Affiliated here is Managed Service Solutions Executive, and I have a diverse background. I'll give you a little bit of that in just a moment. Affiliated has 49 employees. We have a strong business acumen and thought leadership. We also are experts in Citrix, VMware, and we're Microsoft Gold Partner, and 2008, 2007 Microsoft Central Region Partner of the Year. It's pretty important stuff for being able to help you with your Microsoft product implementations. So let me give you a little bit about my background. I really started my technical career in law enforcement back in 1986. I served 18 years in law enforcement and then moved into the electronic world by helping the Division of Police do things such as automated mugshots, fingerprinting, and so on. I then went to work as a Chief Technology Officer for an e-commerce company that gained a lot of business experience on my end from deploying small systems to very large-scale systems. Then I left the e-commerce world and started my own company. The company that I started was the first winner of the Ohio State Business Plan competition. I ran that company for 9 years and sold that, and then went to work for another public safety software company that's here regionally as well. I worked there for 4.5 years as business development director and then joined Affiliated. And one of the compelling reasons why I joined Affiliated is the professionalism of the organization, the professionalism of how they approach the solutions for business. And one of my key roles is really to help businesses of all sizes look at technology solutions that fit their growth patterns. And that's one of the reasons why I'm presenting Office 365 today. So let's take a look at Office. Obviously, this is a new Microsoft product. Office 2013, if you didn't know, is a redesign. If you were using 2007 or 2010, when you get Office 2013, you'll notice it's a vast difference, but the difference is fantastic. Again, these are Microsoft products. And the first thing we're going to talk about is the cloud. So what is Office 365? 365 is a cloud-based service. One of the things that Office 365 gives you, if you're unaware of what Office is, and you shouldn't be because it's been around forever, but Office gives you Excel, PowerPoint, all of the on-desktop features and components that you need to be productive within business and to create presentations, contracts, invoices, whatever you name it. Microsoft Word, these are staples that have been around for a number of years. The real innovation comes over the past couple of years with the pervasiveness of what they call the cloud or the internet. So these applications are now available, I don't want to necessarily say as a service, but because of high-speed internet, these applications can be available for you anytime, anywhere. That's really important, especially if you lose a laptop or you get into a situation where you're traveling and you don't have access to specific desktop applications. You can use these applications over the web, email, scheduling, the whole 9 yards. Over the past few years, and several years ago when they started this, it really wasn't quite ready, But like everything Microsoft over the last few years, because of the pervasiveness of the internet, Office 2013 changes and gearing everything toward the cloud, this product has really turned out to be fantastic. One of the benefits is that when you subscribe to the Office 365 environment, you get licenses for up to 5 PC or Mac and mobile devices. And that's way different than it had been in the past, where you would buy the Office products, you can install them on a couple machines. This gives you up to 5 devices, and that's very important, especially with iPads, Android devices, and mobile hotspots and so on that are available. You also have roaming, which means you can get it from anywhere. Upgrades are included, so all of that Windows Update stuff that has to come down for Office patches, you don't have to worry about. You get all that automatically. And then you get what's called Office on Demand, which basically means you get this pretty much anywhere you want, and you can save your key files to the cloud. So if you're one of those people like I am, and I'm of the older generation, I used to save my files on USB sticks and try to lug them around, or CDs, and make sure I had them. Saving your key files to the cloud means you can be pretty much anywhere, anytime, and have access to those files. So your Office in the cloud. Some of the products that you will get, and these are the real benefits, you get Exchange, you get Lync, and you get SharePoint. Let me explain a little bit about Exchange. Prior to coming to Affiliated, the previous company that I was with, and I think a lot of small companies do this, they try to get email, calendaring, shared scheduling, and they try to do it as cost effectively as possible. Up until Office 365, Exchange was somewhat cumbersome to install and manage, and it was somewhat costly. So you had to plan for that. The company that I was with before wanted to use a free email service like Zimbra, and they spent about 6 or 7 weeks trying to implement free email. Long story short, after about a year of struggling with free email and shared calendaring and all of this, they decided to go to Exchange. One of the biggest benefits of Office 365 that you will realize is that you have access to Exchange. Exchange is one of the most powerful business tools you can ever deploy. It will give you that shared calendaring, that presence. You will also have the ability to do email, attachments. The entire Exchange environment is probably the #1 business productivity tool. And the fact that you get that by subscription, and it doesn't even have to sit on premise, is a fantastic boost. Obviously, the features that I think are most important is that the Office roams with you. Now, what does that mean specifically? If you go to the App Store, if you're an iPhone or iPad user, you will find the Microsoft apps out there. Lync, which is sort of the communications hub of Exchange and the whole Office line. But in this case, the Office roams with you means Office knows your settings and preferences when you log in. So all this stuff is stored for you no matter what machine you log in on, which means you don't have to lug your computer with you everywhere. For instance, I have a machine at home. I'll go home at night. I'll log into my Office 365, and I have access to all my applications and settings. I don't have to worry about it. I can type letters. I can work on business-related items. When I come in to the office physically the next morning, I log into my computer. All my work is there. All my settings are pervasive, and they follow me. You sign into Office, and you get back to where you left off, and that's really important. One other feature here I'll mention is they also include what's called SkyDrive Pro. If you have not invested the time in looking at what SkyDrive is, go to SkyDrive on the web, sign up for a free account, get a taste of what SkyDrive can do for you. My wife is a teacher, and she will constantly lug files back and forth on USB sticks. She'll work on papers, she'll grade papers, she'll put her grade sheets, and yes, one day it happened, she forgot her grade sheets. She forgot her USB stick. So I set her up a SkyDrive account. Now she doesn't even carry anything with her. She puts it all in SkyDrive, and she knows if she gets to school, she has all of the work that she needs. That's a free account. If you sign up for SkyDrive, you'll get a taste of that. SkyDrive Pro means you get more storage. There are a lot more features under SkyDrive Pro that you can utilize to share data with coworkers or within your enterprise. Office deployment reimagined. So what does that mean? Well, what it means is that the deployment, the old days of having to lug CDs and put in product keys and all this other stuff really kind of goes out the window in terms of old school distribution. If you have 9 workstations, you simply download the apps. So one of the versions of O365 Online gives you the ability, if you're still kind of old school like I am, it's like, yeah, I really want to have my Outlook installed on my laptop. I really want to have Word installed, so if I'm working in a cave, I can actually type a letter. You can do that. So there's still a version that will let you download those products. So no more CDs, no more license keys. You log in, you click a button, you can actually download Word, you can download Excel, PowerPoint, and so on. Those will live on your local machine. More importantly, they will synchronize those files with the cloud. So the cloud version will also have all those files. So you don't have to worry about working on something offline while on an airplane or wherever. As soon as you get connected, those files get updated appropriately. There are also cloud apps, and this basically tells you about hosted in the cloud with the minimum device footprint. And this is kind of what we just talked about. You really don't need a whole lot of machine to be able to run this. If you could run a browser, you can get to the Office 365 applications. There's some nice integration points as well. So, and this is really more of an Office 2013 feature. It's not necessarily specific to Office 365, but in 2013 there are some items that integrate pretty nicely. So if you put an address in, it knows what an address is, and it will attempt to show you a map of where that person or business resides. It actually is pretty helpful. At first I thought it was a little gimmicky, but upon using it, it really is pretty helpful. One of the other features of Office 365 is control. If you're leery about putting your stuff in the cloud or having documents shared elsewhere, there's some real comfort to having that sort of off-site backup, and they understand that. So one of the things that they've built in is allowing you to control who can see what documents, how you manage those documents online, and what controls you want to place on those documents. So here you see you can diagnose, audit, and inventory workbooks and databases. This is nice to be able to identify the external dependencies and broken links. It will tell you when things aren't exactly where they need to be, so that you can monitor these specific shared resources and make sure that they're functioning optimally. And this is a big one for me. So data loss prevention. If you've been in IT for any length of time, or you've owned a computer, especially if you're older and you've owned older computers in the past, you've probably had some data loss experience. There's nothing worse than turning on your computer in the morning and hearing that click, click, click of the hard drive, and know that you're done. You have to buy a hard drive. You have to start everything over. The good thing about Office 365 is you just go to another computer and log in, and you can be productive. So even though you might need to rebuild a machine, you can take your time doing so. All of your Office productivity stuff is safe. This happened to me not long ago. I actually bought a terabyte passport drive to back up my machine. Luckily, I had all of my important files in SkyDrive because my machine failed before I could get my backups completed. Data retention for compliance. This may or may not apply to you. Depending on the type of business that you're in the medical community, there are HIPAA regulations. Law enforcement, we had CJIS regulations, which dealt with records retention and public records laws. You may have regulatory compliance issues, and the nice thing about the Office 365 suite is that you can, as it says here, transparent and granular retention. You can set up retention for how you want to manage your documentation so that you are in compliance. Now here's a slide on unified eDiscovery across Exchange, SharePoint, Lync, and file shares. This is actually based on what they call enhanced search technology. It sort of knows where everything is. How it does that, I don't know. Lync, we use Lync internally here at Affiliated. If I'm in a meeting, it basically monitors my schedule. And so if somebody wants to look me up to ask me a question, they can simply look at the Lync dashboard, and they'll know if I'm in a meeting, they'll know if I'm busy, if I'm on the phone. It's a great boost to productivity because you don't waste a lot of cycles tracking somebody down or calling them and having to leave them voicemail. You get a view of your internal resources instantly. Here's a slide on client health and management. So they call this new Office telemetry to centrally manage client health, maintain performance, and aid migrations. So this is sort of the solutions, documents, migration tool that kind of rolls into everything. Central management of mobile devices. So within Exchange, one of the nice features, and this also ties into Lync, if I want to use my iPhone, for instance, with my Exchange server and my Outlook client, I basically enroll the iPhone onto Exchange. So now Exchange says, okay, I'll allow this phone to be utilized for this user. The nice thing is that if you wanted to reach me in Lync and I was away from my desk, it could actually call me on my phone because it's aware of that. Now maybe you don't want to be found as easily, but maybe you do, and maybe you want to be able to communicate with your workforce internally. But it's a great feature. We've used it internally here for a while. I like the way it integrates with the Office suite. A consistent management experience. So as an Office 365 administrator, if you are in charge of administrating for your organization, you'll see a nice dashboard. And it will give you the status of all your services. It will give you constant status of whether something's up, down, whether there's patches, and so on. So basically tells you here, improved simplified navigation. That's true. The first version of Office 365 was a little bit kludgy. It was hard to get around in the administrative dashboard. They've done a great job cleaning this up and making it a lot more 2013 aware. And you can see here as an example. And there is a note there at the bottom, advanced automation using PowerShell. For those of you who may not know, PowerShell is sort of a scripting language, and you can write PowerShell scripts to automate a lot of these features if so desired. So for instance, if you wanted to generate reports of user statistics and so on, you could write a PowerShell script. You could execute that script against the dashboard interface, and it could give you a result. You also have online malware protection services, which are integrated into the admin dashboard, and you can easily manage the enterprise features for on-prem or on-premise and cloud Exchange users. And again, Exchange is probably one of those key components that if you tried to implement that internally, and if you already have it implemented internally, you can do a migration to the off-premise. Now, in my previous line of work in law enforcement, we had to do a lot of work with disaster recovery. So one of the things that in law enforcement, public safety in general, is you are operating 365. You're on every day, 24 hours a day. You can't go down. The critical nature of public safety. One of the biggest challenges is in the technology that's utilized to support public safety operations, whether it's a 911 call center or just a police department dispatching center. The equipment has to be functioning all the time in order for those resources to be available. And this is life-changing type technology. In other words, life hangs in the balance. One of the features and one of the disaster recovery components is always, can you relocate your operations at a moment's notice? So in the case of a 911 center, if a tornado or something blows through and knocks the building down, are you really not going to be able to answer 911 calls for help? And the answer simply is no. We have to have a way to do that. So in the public safety community, they have these backup plans to be able to access their key technology. But it's very, very costly. And in the case of having to replicate servers or have hot standbys or warm standbys or other locations, it makes it even that much more difficult. So one of the advantages of doing a migration from an existing Exchange server that's on-premise, especially when the hardware gets to a certain age that it doesn't make sense to buy new hardware to host that internally, is to migrate that over to a service. Now, the flexibility that it gives you is that when you want to move offices or when your business has a growth that obviously you're trying to grow your business, you're going to move premise. Well, when you move your premise, you don't have to worry about moving your primary communications email server and so on. That lives in the cloud, and you can, as long as you have an internet connection, you can access it. So it gives you ultimate flexibility in how you're going to move around. You could segment your office into many offices and still have access to the same systems. So this has been a real boost for public safety. It's been a real boost for a lot of small businesses that are looking for redundancy and some fault tolerance. This is a section that I probably could use some help on. Now, my 15-year-old daughter can teach me all about this. Her and her friends will sit on the couch and text back and forth and won't say a word. Irritates me to no end. However, Office 365 has all of the social networking components built into it. Hashtags, pervasive presence, what they call integration, @mention people. So if you mention somebody in a post, it will actually find them and it will load that in for you. All the things you would do on Twitter, Facebook, and so on, you can plug right into Office 365. Follow people, document and sites, create Outlook tasks from your news feed, click to communicate with pervasive presence and people card. There is a people card. Now, I have used this. This is actually pretty cool. So, and it says improve threaded comments. You get this nice sort of view of all of the conversations that this person has, as well as all their background from their social profile. This is actually very nice. So if you're trying to find information about someone to be able to communicate appropriately, this gives you a clear picture. And one of the other features, and this, I just got a note here, this is a part of the SharePoint product, and SharePoint is the website and collaboration component. But here's the people card single view of a person, including rich presence information. And this will do internal and external feed, so it'll find information for you. This is part of our CRM system, or CRM APAC upgrade. They show it right there on the screen as far as an example. So this is SharePoint integrated, tasks, calendars, projects. When I had my company, we used SharePoint to manage a project that involved 13 counties, 200 different law enforcement agencies. And to bring that project together so that we could schedule everybody was a monumental task. Fortunately, I had a really smart guy that worked with us who deployed SharePoint, and SharePoint managed that entire project. People could log in, they could schedule free time on the calendar, and we used that to create master schedules. It was a godsend. Within SharePoint, you can also assign tasks to individuals, so you can manage entire projects with SharePoint. You can also integrate it with Project Online, and Project Online is another product from Microsoft. This is just an example of some of the kind of data that you can get out of the Project Center as well. And you can see and manage all your projects in a portfolio view as well. One of the other features, and this is HD video conferencing across a range of devices. If you have remote offices, if you have work sites that you need to get information to and from, maybe conference calls that you have on a regular basis, this is actually a nice feature, and this is part of Lync. And Lync has this little thing called peaks, and there are those little buttons you see at the bottom. You can kind of mouse over those and you get these little peaks of information. And in this case, you can pick the whiteboard. You can collaborate using just this communications tool on Lync. And obviously, Microsoft Lync and Skype work together. So that's, I don't know if you use Skype. I don't necessarily use Skype. I usually hang out with Lync. It does pretty much everything I need. I have used Skype on my iPhone for some long-term communications with military personnel. It does seem to work really well. The Microsoft Lync product being integrated, I think, will add some features, although I have not personally used those. But from what I understand, it works pretty well. And then here's a new one. I don't know if you've heard of Yammer. So Yammer was started probably maybe 4 or 5 years ago as sort of an alternative to, it's sort of like an internal Facebook. So if you have something within company that you want to announce and you want to use sort of these feeds, sort of a private Facebook feed system for your business, especially if you have offices all over or small offices in many locations, Yammer is probably a product that would work really well for you. It allows you to stay on top of situations, share information, and allows you to go back and archive some of this info. And it also integrates with SharePoint. So I believe, Mike, do you know if, did Microsoft buy Yammer?
Yep.
Yep, okay. So Microsoft bought Yammer, which explains why it's integrated now into SharePoint. So let's talk a little bit about some of the devices that you can use Office 365 and the Microsoft Suite on. And obviously, one of the devices that Microsoft wants you to know about is the Microsoft tablet. And let me speak a little bit about that for a moment. So iPads, fantastic devices. iPhones, fantastic. Some of the Android tablets are really good. The advantage of a Microsoft tablet is if you have invested infrastructure into PCs and you're running Windows operating systems, you already have products like antivirus. You already maybe have group policy set up for your machines on your network. The advantage is that you can buy the Windows-based tabs, and they run Windows 8, and they also can run pretty much all of the standard productivity, antivirus, anti-malware, and deal with all of the group policies that you've already set up on your network. So you can add them to the domain, and it's really like having a PC in a tablet form. So that's the advantage. Nothing against iPads. I like iPads as well. But this integrates pretty seamlessly with all of the Office 365 because it can run all the software flawlessly. So here's an example of what it looks like on a tablet if you're going to do something with Outlook. This whole thing is sort of optimized with Office 2013. They did a great job setting this up for a touch environment. There are a few touch laptops out there. I don't particularly like them because I don't like people touching my screen. It drives me insane. But on a tablet, you have no choice because it's the input device, right? And everybody expects that. And here it shows fast and fluid experience, the touch optimized for Windows 8. We just talked about that briefly. There's an improved commenting pane, improved contextual menus, and they have done that. That's true. The 2013 Office products have all these features built in as well, and that's what you'd be getting with Office 365. touch-friendly radial menus. And I haven't used those that much, so I can't really attest personally to the effectiveness of those. But obviously when you get into a touch environment, you need to engineer the interface, and I have designed a number of UIs over the years. So it does make sense to me. What I would recommend is, if you have an interest in Windows 8 tabs, is go and play around with them a little bit. I'm sure you'd see the advantages. So here we have Lync at the Windows Store app. And this is an app that you can get for Windows 8 and Windows 8 tabs. And it kind of gives you an idea of what it looks like. And again, Lync is the communications component of the Office 365 suite. Pretty much you can have video conferencing, and you can set that up with multiple participants. There are also apps for iPhone, and I have one on my iPhone that's a Lync app as well, and it links to my Office 365, and it works very well. So you're not necessarily limited to the Windows 8 tablet, but if you're in the market for tabs for your workforce, you may want to look at this. And this kind of shows you the entire watershed of everything that's available. So they show, obviously, there's the iPad, the Android, the iPhone, and the Windows Phone. And Windows Phone is one of those. I'm hoping to get my hands on a Windows Phone here shortly to be able to see what the level of integration is with Office 365. My understanding is the people that have Windows Phones really like them. I still haven't gotten away from my iPhone yet, but my assumption is if they've done as good a job with Windows Phone as they have with Office 365 in 2013, it's probably pretty cool. So new Office scenarios that drive economic value, eDiscovery and compliance. You've got stuff under the cloud there, licensed by user, which is nice. So it reduces your Office license costs. You've got the new cloud model for apps that lowers development costs. Obviously, faster deployment. When you can download these things directly just by logging in, it makes deployment a lot easier for your IT teams. Multi-party HD video conferencing, and that's true, reduces travel costs. You have to get into the habit of doing that. I think for the younger workforce, it's a little bit easier with FaceTime and so on that they've used on iPhones for a while. This makes sense for business. And then you have this engaging experience across devices, and that's true too. I can log in from one device to another, and I pretty much keep all of my settings and everything where it was. Now let's talk a little bit about what they call return on investment. And these figures are actually pretty accurate. So I've done some calculations on my own. This is what Microsoft puts out, and this is pretty close. So total per user per year savings of between $511 and $839. How they got $511 and $839, I don't know. They're kind of odd numbers. I would have just rounded up, but made it 510 and 840. But in any case, they've done some math as well, and in checking this, it's pretty accurate. So when you look at the cost of deploying Office products from CD to machines and updating those on a regular basis, especially then redeploying new machines, and then having to redeploy the new software and do all the patches. And from a down in the trenches sort of view, that's what I look for, especially with the integration. You save quite a bit. The Exchange in the cloud, again, you save quite a bit. So here's some basic quotes from some folks. I'll give you a moment to read through that. And then Stanley Black & Decker, being able to follow other users or the documents they post through news feeds and alerts will improve the way I don't know if I really do a whole lot of that looking at documents and news feeds, but I think anybody who's in a business and they have to do business intelligence and they're looking at the competitors, there is a lot of that goes on in terms of how you would normally pull some of those feeds. I'm sure there are a lot more intrinsic ways to do that than I'm doing it currently, but the tool does allow for it, and it's actually pretty nice that it's integrated. So here's a system administrator that has looked at the eDiscovery components, and it's actually pretty nice as well. They've done a good job integrating these products. All right, so let's look a little bit about Office 365. Now, like I said, when I started with it, it was relatively new. It was kind of what would be considered cutting edge. It really wasn't quite ready when I first started going through it, and I didn't pick it up again until I got to Affiliated, and the changes have been remarkable. A lot of the shortcomings of the original versions have been mitigated, and the product just works. It's fantastic. So if you look here, this sort of gives you a view of how many users there are now using Office 365, and of course some of the recognizable large brands at the bottom there: Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Starbucks. So I think it's worth a peek, and I would definitely encourage you to take a look at this a little further. And with that, so what are the next steps? So my personal recommendation is that you test drive the new Office in one of the customer immersion experience centers. We will actually have a Microsoft Experience Center that we are setting up here in February, and it is on the Office 365 products. So this is sort of a preview. If you want a hands-on with the products themselves, I'll be sending out something here in the next month or so to get people to sign up if they want to come in and sit down and actually use the Office 365 products and get hands-on. The other thing that you can do is you can sign up for a trial. So you can go to the Office 365 online, and you can sign up for a 30-day trial. When you do so, they will basically provision what they call a tenant, which lives out there in Microsoft World, and they'll send you an email. You can log in, you can actually administrate it, you can add users, and you can see what the benefits are. So if you're technically savvy, if you're an IT administrator, strongly recommend that you go ahead and take that step. It's free, doesn't cost anything other than a few emails. They'll hound you to sign up right away, kind of thing. If you have Exchange, you will need to do a migration at some point, and that's one of the things that we are pretty good at. We can help you make that migration happen. And then obviously the last thing is to get a business value assessment, and that's something else that we can help with. So if you're interested in Office 365 but you're really not sure about your environment, one of the things that we can do here is we can send a technical team out, we can do an assessment, we can look at your Exchange server, how much data you have, and we can help you make a migration from an installed on-premise Exchange to an Office 365 suite of products that just kind of live where you do. Next question that I'm sure is going to pop up here is, what does it cost? And so I thought I'd get in front of that. And here's kind of and this is a lot better than it used to be. I mean, when it first came out, it was a little more expensive, and you didn't get as much. So the first side here you see is, this would be the first tier, Office 365 Small Business Premium, and that's usually up to 25 users. So for a small office, this makes a lot of sense. It's $150 per user for the year. And again, you get the business class email, online conferencing, you get the public website through SharePoint, file sharing, and then you get the Office web apps, including the desktop versions of Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, OneNote, Access, Publisher, and Lync. So if you were to go out and buy all of those product licenses from Best Buy for your entire staff of 25, it would cost you a considerable amount of money. In this way, you get them all, and you can install the desktop versions without any additional fees. The next is the Office 365 mid-size business, and the mid-size business is $15 a user per month, and it's an annual commitment, so you have to bill that annually, and that's up to 300 users. So if you have more than 25 users, you're probably going to want to look at the $15 per month. And even if you wanted the additional Active Directory integration, so if you have a server on-premise that has Active Directory, you can do that integration. And again, you can migrate your Exchange server over at that point. Both of these have a trial for 30 days. And again, highly recommend go out, sign up for the free trial, get logged in, take a look around. If you're a network administrator, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. So a little bit about our sales process. This is fairly straightforward. If you wanted to look for Office 365 as a potential install or product that you want to use, and you would like Affiliated to help you step through that, we are more than delighted to do so. You would simply request a proposal. Our technical team would do that assessment we just talked about. We would look to see if you utilize Active Directory, if you have Exchange, any of the things that would be needing migrated, and then we would come back to you with a proposal. And then from that point, you can make a decision. Doesn't cost anything to do that. We'd be happy to help you. Our implementation process, once you get the approval and you approve of that, then we will allocate some resources for you. So we would get some scheduling done. We would get the appropriate engineers involved. And if there's a migration, we would do the Exchange migration at that point. At the end of the day, when it's all said and done, guess what? You got Office 365. And I can honestly say that once you go to Office 365, you're probably never going to go back. Even as a home user, so I have, my wife's a teacher, I have a couple daughters, just keeping their laptops up to date is a chore. I'm like system administrator for home. And going to Office 365, and they do have consumer grade packages for families. It's like 99 bucks. And it's 5 computers for home users. It doesn't have all the features, obviously, but it has everything that we need as a family. And it's great because when it comes time to buy new computers, I don't have to worry about migrating. I just turn on the new computer and away we go. Thank you so much for hanging in there with me on this Office 365 webinar during the lunch hour. Again, my name is Keith Singleton. There is my email, my direct dial, and my cell phone. If you'd like more information about Office 365 or any of the other products that Affiliated offers, we also offer managed services for desktop machines at your business. We monitor antivirus. We monitor for support. We also have help desk services. And one of the most important things that businesses miss are remote backups and getting their data away from their primary servers in case of a catastrophe. So if you have any questions about any of these types of things, or there's anything we can do from a business perspective to help you align your technology with your business goals, please get in contact with me, give us a call, and I'll be happy to get back with you. Do we have any questions? If so, we can just type those into the question box there, and I'll see if I can help you with those. Okay, we have one here about how long does it take to deploy. That's really going to depend on the assessments. So what we would do is send a team. We would do an assessment. Once we got the assessment done, again, we would set up a proposal, and that assessment would detail out the work that needs to be done to make the migration happen. And then based on the resources, then we would be able to give you a timetable. But that will depend on how extensive the migration is. And as far as workstations supported, that really doesn't make that much difference, because once Office 365 is up and running, the heavy lifting really comes from migration of a server or an Exchange or integration to an Active Directory kind of thing. And we can make sure that that's all working. Once that's all working, you're pretty much off to the races. Okay, are there any more questions? I'm looking at my ticker here. It doesn't look like there are any additional questions at this time. So again, thank you for joining. If you have any questions, please contact me directly or call Affiliated's main number and ask for me, and I'll be happy to get back with you. Again, thank you.